All right. So I think it's time to start. Is it Mr. Tokwe or so? You want to start streaming? Or it's already streamed, I think. Yes, I think so. Okay. Good evening, everyone, once again. Please use the thumbs up emoji if you can hear me. Let me be sure that we are all together. Isaac, thank you. I've seen you. I want us to be active. Please, if you can hear me. All right. I've seen Fred, Chioma. All right. All right. Thank you. Thank you. Brilliant. So, Fortune, all good. So, quickly, I'm sharing my screen. Joseph and every other person, thank you very much. I've cited you. We had just 20 on the call, often more than this. I don't know. So far, just a recap to help us know where we started and where we are currently. We've done the first 7 chapters of your study text, and we are left with just pets. I think yeah, 8 more chapters or 7 thereabouts. So we started with the concept of audit. This class have been taken. We've been taking this class, um, myself and Mr. Gabriel, and I'm sure some of us have been attending the classes. I have seen some names that are frequent in class. And also, just like last class, I can remember someone was saying he's just joining us. So I just want to let us know the few things that we have done so far in the session. Okay, so we've done something on the concept and the need of assurance, where that chapter you learned about the assurance engagements. We've spent time on professional ethics and code of conduct. Where I think I took that chapter and I mentioned the acronym PICO, PICCO, for remembering the 5 professional ethics propounded by IFAC. PICCO, where we said P is for professional behavior. Oh, how many of us who joined that class? This is just a quick review before we go to what we are to do today. Is there anyone that was there in that class that day? Do you want to show a thumbs up, or you raise your hands and then you can remember what we use the acronym PICO to represent before we move quite fast? All right, Adewale, do you want to unmute and speak? Kindly unmute and speak, Adewale. Or who else? Who else was there? Yes, I'm listening. Adewale, I saw your hands. Okay, let's proceed if we can't get someone there. So we were saying that professional ethics, the 5 ethical principles could be remembered with ease using the acronym PICO, PICCO, P for professional behavior, I for integrity, the first C for competence and due care, the next C for confidentiality, and then O for objectivity. That gives the acronym PICCO, PICO. Then we also spend time learning about the threats that might come as a result of our need to be objective and being independent. So we looked at several threats there. Also, we did chapter 3, obtaining an engagement, where we learned about a few things. Practice, that's the basic practice management. We also proceeded to internal audit. I'm sure that class we explained that internal audit is related to internal control, just like we'd say somewhat is hands in gloves. Internal audit is as a result of internal control. We learned about the difference between internal audit and external audit with other items, audit planning and risk assessment as well. Evidence and sampling. We discussed a lot about evidence and sampling, where we said that before we say we have obtained evidence, our evidence should be qualitative and quantitative. We said it should be sufficient, it should be reliable, and we listed other qualities, characteristics of audit evidence. We also spent time to look at sampling. In the last class, we're focusing on internal control. So quickly today, we would be proceeding into test of controls. Test of controls today. All right, let me move my screen quickly. All right, Mr. Idris, your hands is up.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, please go ahead.
Okay. With your permission, sir, I just want to add something to what you've been lighting us on since.
Okay.
Okay, so good evening, everyone. Good evening, my professional colleagues. My name is Idris. So with my guy here, I was supposed to be assisting him, but fortunately, unfortunately, I've not been having chance. So I
Mr. Idris, are you there? Can we still hear him?
No, sir.
No, sir. Can't hear him.
Okay, I think maybe it's network or somewhat. Okay, I think it is his network because he just left the meeting. I'm hoping he will join back. Okay, while waiting for him to join back, I hope there's something I mentioned when we started the class. I mentioned that it's always easy for students to practice questions in calculation-based courses, but most times students would always find it difficult to pick up past questions in theory-based courses, and then also pick up books to do the actual writing. It's necessary and it's worthy that I mention here that words are easier said than written. Yes, I hope we know that. Words are easier said than written. You might sit to presume that, oh yes, I know I can write about the ethical principles. I can write about internal control. I can write about the components of internal control. Can write short notes about those stuffs. But like also an axiom. You can't learn how to ride a bicycle without climbing the bicycle, without actually handling the bicycle. So you cannot say you are preparing for these audit exams when you've not picked up pen and book, and then you try to answer audit exams questions by yourself. It is easier for you to pick up FR questions you are trying to solve to get the answer. But most times students do not actually create time just like they would create time for other calculation courses for audit. So I would love to mention by way of advice that just like we are creating time for other courses, creating time to uh, do questions and treat problems as they relate to professional courses, calculation courses, we should also create time for audit. I'm hoping Mr. Idris joins us back. But if not, I would have to proceed. But prior to proceeding, I did a very little review of what we've done so far, but the response wasn't quite okay. It's a small class so far. I think we are less than 100, and also it's a visual class. That gives rise that we should be free to express ourselves. I would love to review the last chapter before moving to the next, which is chapter 7 before chapter 8, because they are all in related: internal control and test of control. From the name, what we are about to do today, test of control, we want to assess the controls that are put in place in the organization. And we did so much about internal control the last time. Okay, Mr. Idris is back. Let me confirm that. Mr. Idris, are you back? Blessing, you want to say something? Kindly unmute and speak, Blessing.
Okay, hi, good evening.
Yeah, good evening. Go ahead.
Yeah, this is actually my first time joining this class. So I don't know how can I get this summary note.
Okay, the summary notes is available. You would reach out to Mr. Yusuf, and then it's available just for a token. You're on our WhatsApp group, are you?
Yes, yes.
Yes. So you reach out to the admin there. You would get it.
Okay, thank you.
All right. So we did so much about internal control the last class, and then just to ask a little bit to assess that we've not closed our books and gone AY. We mentioned components of internal control. Can we get anyone that remember that? Yes, we started with internal control, the whole system of control management will put in place to ensure that things are going well in the organization. And we related that to our personal self, that we also set controls for our personal self to ensure that we are operating effectively and efficiently. We are adhering to rules, and then we are complying to all regulations. So, for instance, you can set up internal control for your personal self to ensure you resume work on time, to ensure your salaries are, when they are, once they are paid, you are spending it properly. These are just general stuffs that, apart from relating it to operations in the organization, we also relate it to our individual self. So we spoke about components of internal control. Could we have anyone that can remember any of those components we mentioned the last class? Just a few review. I earlier did some questions about PICO. I didn't get any response. I should get a response here. Components of internal control, please. Did we attend the last class? How many of us attended the class? the elements or components of internal control. I saw Adebayo in class. Yeah. Hello, someone is speaking.
Hello, good evening, sir.
Yeah, go ahead.
Hello, sir. Hello.
One at a time,
We have
please.
control
Who is speaking?
environments.
Okay,
Sir?
Grace. Okay, go ahead.
Sir, can we talk?
Go ahead.
Yes.
Grace, go ahead, please.
Hello.
Grace, you're breaking or you're muted now. Okay, I have Grace, I have Oluchi. Let me hear two from Grace and two from Oluchi. Grace, proceed, please.
Good evening.
Okay, proceed.
We have we have
control. We have control
environment.
environment. We have risk management.
Okay, thank you. Control environment, risk management. Omolara.
Okay, good evening, sir. We have
Yes, sir.
informational system. We have monitoring of the controls, and we have control activities.
All right, thank you. Just to ensure that we are not just in class and then we are not following, the tutor just does the talking. So ISA 315 identified 5 components. You would see some questions, 5 elements, 5 components, all synonymous. The control environment, risk assessment, information system, control activities, then monitoring the control itself. There's an acronym for this, and probably maybe later on I would share with us. So we spent time on learning about all of those components of internal control. And then just to ask, we pointed out limitations for internal control. Limitations for internal control. If you are if you are looking at your past questions, you see most times questions are asked on this. So let me ask Omolara to tell us about that. Your hand is still up. That's why I'm calling. Omolara, do you want to unmute and speak, please? Okay, Adebayo, go ahead. Adebayo.
We have what the part of the limitations are human error, whereby it may result to some inaccurate processing. And another one is it is costly to establish, like the cost incurred in internal control is costly. And another one is control. Yes, control. It may be overridden by management. I think that is the one I can remember from 3. Yes. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Grace, do you want to add to that? Your hands is still up. Grace Deke, your hands is still up. You want to add to that? Or you please lower your hands. Thank you very much, Adebayo. Thank you, Adebayo. Okay, so moving fast, we explained in the last class human error, the cost of establishing control, the fact that control might be overridden by management, and then collusion. When people work together, they tend to become friends, and then they can collude and probably make their friendship to be against the organization by exploring ways in which they can break controls put in place and escape with some funds in the organization. We discussed about management letter point and management letter of representation. And then we looked at types of control, general control and application control. These were the things we did the last class. CAATs, computer, auditing around the computer, and the rest of it. So today we will be looking at test of control. So we don't spend so much time on looking at what we've done already. Test of control. So as we have discussed already, the auditors take system-based approach where possible, most times. Where they are, what is the meaning of system-based approach in audit? We are simply saying the audit approach that focuses on systems and internal control. We are looking at what were the yardsticks, what parameters we put in place
Okay,
that
sir, we have staff
produce.
pollution too. Just
It's
sir, I
now.
said staff pollution. Mm. I didn't know my hand was here.
Thank you, Grace. We've moved forward. It's as if you are. Is it your network or somewhat? It's making you get to hear what we said now. Thank you. Thank you very much. Kindly lower your hands. Okay. So we're starting our business of the day, test of controls. We finished looking at internal control in the last class. So today's class, we are focusing on test of controls. From the name, test of controls. How do we make an assessment to know if the controls exist? And we are introducing the session by saying that auditors often usually use the system-based approach of audit. And what is the system-based approach? It's simply an approach that focuses on the system that produces the financial statement. So if I am coming to audit the financials of XYZ Limited, I am simply coming to look at what systems brought about the figures in the financial statement. What are the do's and don'ts that were put in place? What are the parameters that assisted in generating the financial statement? So if we are coming to use system-based approach, I'm not coming to audit the figures in the financial statement. I'm not coming to give so much emphasis on the figures in the financial statement, but I'm coming to look at what brought about the figures in the financial statement. So put differently, system-based approach in audit is auditing the system that produce the figures in the financial statement. So if the systems and the controls are satisfactory, then the figures produced should be reliable. Two conditions applicable before adopting system-based approach in audit is when we are sure that the system were designed properly to minimize that risk of misstatement, and then when the systems and controls operate effectively. We discussed somewhat earlier about computer-assisted audit technique. If I want to spend more time on the system-based approach, explaining about it, I could talk about probably an instance where we are using a software to produce financial statements. In that instance, the system-based approach is I'm not after the financial statements because I know the financial statement did not just generate itself, but I am after what brought about the financial statement. So let me come review the software. Let me come review what the software looks like. Does it gives does the software give authority for only selected people to input figures into the system? What are the parameters before we can generate the financial statement? So that's a good example of talking about system-based approach, where we are after the system that produced the figures and not going to hunt the figures. Computer-assisted audit techniques. We discussed this in the last class, and we said that any technique that enables the auditor to use the computer system as a source of generating audit evidence is a computer-assisted audit techniques. As simple as that. So you'll be seeing all these stuff, cat in your exams questions. What does it mean? Computer assisted audit techniques. Those techniques that helps the auditor come up with audit evidence. I hope we know that audit as a whole works with evidence. So when you are saying I'm going for audit, you are going to get enough evidence to form an opinion over the financial statement. So that our slang is explain entire no evidence. You know work for audit too. If you no get evidence, there is nothing like opinion. The auditors cannot form opinion if they don't have evidence. So when we say CAATs, those techniques that helps the auditor use the computer system as a source of generating audit evidence. They are very necessary whenever you're auditing informations that are digital, that is produced by the computer, and then they are also necessary because they allow the auditor get inside the computer and check the accuracy of processing. So we have three different types of computer assisted audit techniques: the audit software, the test data, and then the embedded audit facility. Audit software, just like you have accounting software, we have audit software where it's a computer program written for use by auditors to extract information from the client's computer. The sole purpose will be for audit. So we might have different types of audit software to be interrogative, interactive, and then the embedded software. Interrogative, interactive, and the embedded software. So all these softwares are mainly used for substantive testing. We can barely use audit software for compliance test. It is mostly used for substantive testing. By substantive testing, we are doing it's somewhat like vouching the process that every item passed through the relevant processes. Or we say, for instance, substantive testing is the figures in my balance sheet. Did they go through? Were they shown in the trial balance? From the trial balance, I go back. I'm going back. Were they in the ledgers? From the ledgers, what were the different source documents that made them up? So apart from audit software, we spoke about that computer assisted audit techniques can be audit software, test data, or embedded audit facility. At this point, I think it's necessary for me to confirm that we are all together. Please use the thumbs up emoji if we are all together. If you can still hear me and you are active in class. All right, Adiolo. Idris. Okay, Mr. Idris is back. Joshua Bassi is back as well. Thank you. Thank you. Mr. Idris, Mauga, I don't know if you want to, I don't know, the network took you off. You want to say something or it should be after the class? Which of them?
When you are done with the class generally, so I will just try to just wrap it up, like just like a form of advice for us and how to attempt our question better. Well, after the class, sir.
All right, thank you. Thank you,
Yes.
Moses. I can spot you. Thank you, Mauga.
Yes.
Yeah, that's my senior colleague. He's an FCA in the making. Thank you, Mr. Idris. Thank you, everyone that indicated thumbs up. I would be calling your names. I don't want anyone to slip off, and I will be calling your names probably to ask you questions. So stay alert in class. All right, thank you. Let's get back. So we've mentioned computer assisted audit techniques could be audit software, test data, or embedded audit facility. We've explained audit software as a computer program that is used by the auditor to extract information from the client's computer system. That extraction is solely for audit purpose. And then we explained that there are types of audit software which could be interrogative program, interactive. From the name interrogative, we should know what that implies, and interactive. Then we have the residence code or the embedded software. We said that I took time here earlier to mention that audit software is mainly used for substantive testing. Test data at the flip side is used primarily for test of controls. By test data, we are simply focusing on techniques that provides evidence that specific applications of controls were carried out. So if, for instance, we are in a client premises, and then the client is telling us that we often do this, we often do that, we need to assess. Remember, we said you have to be professionally skeptical. That is, you don't believe everything the client tells you. You have to go further far to confirm by yourself that the stuffs your client tells you he does, he actually carries them out. So what test data implies is that we try to provide evidence that those specific application controls that you are saying they are in place, we confirm that they are operating effectively in a given system. However, one problem with test data is that it can only give audit evidence about the computer system at the time that data is processed and not any other time. The problem can be addressed using embedded audit facilities, which we'll talk about later. So let me give an example. So if, for instance, you tell your auditor that if I sit down with my Excel sheet and prepare all the invoices, I can import invoices on my QuickBooks, and then it will be loaded against all the customers' name automatically. So my QuickBook is an accounting software that can help me load over 1,000 invoices at once, and it will be correctly done. So by test data, the auditor wants to confirm that what you are saying is true. So probably let's look at the next batch of invoices that you want to load. Let's carry out an assessment and be sure that we can gather specific evidence. We can get evidence that this particular control you are talking about operates. Or another example is that someone says nobody in the accounting department can log into the QuickBook app, that the aspect of QuickBooks that can view the staff payroll or somewhat, or maybe an ERP, the payroll is only viewed by the payroll staff. So let us go confirm that it is true. The payroll staff alone are the ones that can view the staff payroll in the organization. So we are just trying to ensure that these stuffs that you are saying you do, you are doing them. These are just like basic examples that we can talk about. But one problem is this: we can only vouch that you are saying these stuffs as at the time we are vouching. If at all you impute data, it's just like somebody saying, I've developed a system that if I add 2 plus 2, it will give me 4. The auditor comes and says, oh yeah, let's add it and see. When the auditor comes to add, it also gives 4. So the problem is that it might give 4 in front of the auditor, but we don't know if any other time someone will come to add 2 plus 2 on that your computer software or system, whichever, it will give 4. That's just the problem associated with test data. I hope we are following. Please use the thumbs up again to indicate you're following and you understood what I'm saying. Okay. Good. Linus and Grace and the rest of Adebayo. The next is embedded audit facility. This is also called resident audit software or integrated audit model. It is an audit software that is built into the client's computer system, either temporarily or permanently. This can be useful in the audits of online systems where data is continually processed and master files are being continually updated. It is difficult, if not possible, for the system to provide a satisfactory audit trail. So as against the test data that is a one-off check, the embedded audit facility tries to solve the problem of the test data. The test data is a one-off, let's come see it with our eyes if it is working. But the embedded audit facilities, from the name embedded, we are coming to install somewhat in the system, integrated audit model, where we assure that every time you are processing this data, it's applicable most times if we have data that are continuously processed. So every time we come to check on the data, every time that you are carrying out the data process, this stuff works. Now, what are the advantages of computer-assisted audit techniques generally? It gives the auditor ability to test completeness, accuracy of data. Remember, I said that all these computer-assisted audit techniques are used for which type of control, which type of testing, please? Let me be sure you are following me. Which type of testing? Is it compliance testing or which one? Do we mostly use computer-assisted audit techniques to do? Substantive testing, compliance testing. So which test would be looking at completeness, accuracy of transactions? Substantive. All right. All right. So that's the first advantage of computer-assisted audit techniques. It gives the auditor ability to test the completeness and accuracy of the computer software rather than its input and output. Remember, I started by saying system-based approach, where we are after the system that generated the figures. We are not going to hunt the figures, but we are looking at the system that brought about those figures. So with CAATs, it helps the auditor to check and know that transactions were completely and accurately processed by whatsoever software you're using. Then that it has the ability also to test large volumes of transactions within a short period of time. It allows auditors to test the effectiveness of control and programming the computer software. However, there are disadvantages for our computer-assisted audit techniques. Most of them relates to cost. Small audit firms and co-s, all these who is there? Adebayo and Co, Grace, Daycare and Co, all of them, they might not be able to buy the cost because of the cost of development, cost of keeping it up to date, and the cost of you training your audit staff to be able to practice it. So all of these cost are the major disadvantages associated with computer-assisted audit techniques. So we also have another issues pertaining to computer risks, the uncertainty that lies with the use of computer systems exists holistically, even with the computer-assisted audit techniques, where we might talk about the organizational risks or the procedural risks. What do we mean by the organization risks or application and procedural risks? So those tendencies that you go to some organizations and then, like I have a friend that is working as an ethical hacker. So his job is just to be trying to hack into the computer system in his or her workplace. Whenever he successfully does that, he gets a bonus for succeeding. So if we have somewhat you are bringing in your audit software to a guy that has already mastered those processes, it might come in to break some of your efforts. Those uncertainties, these are just likelihood example I'm stating. Then we have the general risks as well, which are those existing pertaining to environments in which those programs were developed, and then application risks that are associated with processing. Remember when we in the last class we explained the difference between this general and application stuff. Right, let's move fast. We have risks associated with computer-based accounting environments, to include risks at point of system development, risks at point of operating the system, and then risks at point of you failing to secure your system. So we call it system development related risks. System development related risks. It's just like you developing a model on Excel, trying to develop a model on Excel, a finance model where you are to do series of formula referencing. Whenever there are mistakes at that point, there is a system design error, which would definitely cause a multiplier series of errors that has multiplier effects. So same thing applies with using the computer in the accounting environment. At point of developing the software, there might be system design errors. There might be system design errors which would subsequently translate to processing errors. So if the system is designed in error, the processing would also be done in error. So we call that, as you say, those risks system development related risks. The next is, if at all the system were developed properly, we might also have an issue at point of operations, where we call that computer operation related risks. Computer operation related risks. By that, we are looking at the fact that our computer operators, where we are operating the finance accountants, bookkeepers, and the rest of it, we might not have this tendency of the right person using the computer. So we might now have an unauthorized person using the computer to type in figures or bring in inputs that are not supposed to be brought in, or we have computer fraud by outsiders. Then we also have security failure risks. Here we are looking at damaging the hardware or theft of the hardware completely. Power failures are also associated with computer security failure risks. Then we have the computer input data risks, which is when an unauthorized input of data is carried out, and output risks as well. Displaying the output, that is confidential information on the screen for people that are not authorized to see, or most times having an incorrect output. All right, before moving into test of transactions, I think we might take that subsequently. Let's us spend a little more time in reviewing what we've done so far. Test of controls is what we are to do today. However, before we focus on test of controls, we started with the class by saying test of controls. Let us assess if controls are in place. What are the various means in which we can do that assessment to be sure that controls are in place? Prior to going into that, we spent some time in looking at system-based audits. System-based approach of audits, where we say in system-based approach of audits, we are looking at the system that brought about the financials figures and not the figures themselves. So we are not coming to look at financial statement figures. Assets is 500,000. 500,000. How did we make up the 500,000? Instead, we are looking at what system generated 500,000. Let's go audit that system. Let's go test the system and be sure that the system that produced the 500,000 was rightly designed. There were no system errors at point of designing. The people that were supposed to type the figures in, they did the writing, processing the figures, the additions, and all of that went on properly. So two conditions in which we can use system-based approach, we discussed that. We spent time looking at computer-assisted audit techniques, and we said that any form of technique that would enable the auditor to use the computer system in generating evidence is a computer-assisted audit techniques. And then we said that there are three types of computer-assisted audit techniques: audit softwares, test data, embedded audit facility. By audit software, just like you say accounting software, that's program that is written to assist the auditor extract information from the client system based on information systems for use in audit is computer software. We said there are three types of computer software: interrogative programs, interactive program, and then the embedded software. We spend time to say that audit software is mainly used for substantive testing. The other type of computer-assisted audit techniques is test data. by test data. We are simply saying we want to test your controls. Let us adopt the techniques that provides evidence that whatever specific controls you are telling us exist, it actually exists. So, however, one problem here is that you might tell us this thing is happening now, and we confirm it is happening now. How about later? How about when we weren't around? Was it happening? We have that problem. Then we say embedded audit facility. This one, we don't want you to show us that it is working now. Let us install something and be sure it will be working continuously. We spend time to look at the advantages of computer-assisted audit techniques, to include helping the auditor be sure of completeness and accuracy, do large volume of transaction, and then effectiveness of controls assessed. Disadvantages of this could be cost-related, risks associated with computer systems, where we looked at the different types of risks around the computer system development risks when we are developing the system, and then there are risks, computer operation risks, computer security failure risks, computer data input risks, and then the output related risks. So I'm just checking the time. I don't want to take the class long. We would continue in the next class. Let me allow my senior colleague, Mr. Idris, to do a review of and also give you advice related to answering audit questions. It's an honor for us to have him with us today. But prior to that, I don't know if we have questions on what we've done so far. Please do well to ask your questions before Mr. Idris takes the floor. Thank you very much. All right, any questions so far? If not, Mr. Idris, please over to you. Thank you, sir.
Okay, so thank you, sir, for okay. Maybe Mr. Adebuyi has a question for you, sir. So you can go ahead with your question, sir, before I now talk. Hello, sir. Mr. Adebuyi, you unmute your mic as if you want to talk. Okay, so good evening, everybody, once again. And please, a round of applause for our master for this wonderful class. It's not easy, actually, and I can tell you, because it's not easy for someone to go to work from morning to night, then still want to make impact and still reach out to a couple of number of people and try and see what you can do. You know, this is a service to humanity. So thank you, sir. Thank you for your time. Thank you, sir. More power to your elbow, sir. So actually, I want to just also chip in something too, for us to be aware that I want to believe that most of us in this audit and assurance at this level, we are not an accounting student, or probably your school has not been accredited, so that is why you have to start from skills. So, and this thing now that my oga is taking us here, it's going to help us when we get to professional, because now in skills, when we're in skills, I think the major cause that used to give us problem mostly is this PM, for example, PM and maybe some other this thing. But now, when you get to professional, advanced audit and assurance tend to be the most difficult course to pass in ICANN in final stage. I can place it over SFM. After this, then you can go to SFM or probably case study. So there's a need for us to be very, very attentive, and everything they are explaining to us here, we need to take it very, very serious. So I'm just going to tell us this. So in audit and assurance, there are two things we need to focus on for the purpose of our exam. First of all, the question will be like a scenario-based question. So it's not going to come directly like what is system control, what is theft of control on financial statements. But they are going to make it in a way that the test of control that they want you to derive is going to be in the question. So you are going to do two things. First of all, you need to understand what the scenario is talking about, the aspect at which the scenario is driving to. So they might just come up with a long passage. So you need to understand the concept of that scenario and the requirement of that scenario. Then secondly, how can you relate your answer to that given scenario? For example, they might just come up with, oh, you are the auditor of this X and Y Limited, and the company has been in existence for a very long time. The auditor before was not able to substantiate the audit evidence with in the financial statement, and was not able to give clear opinion about the financial statement prepared by the management. So you are the new auditor of the company. What are the tests of control that auditor will put in place in order for you to have a good audit period on which you are going to base your opinion and then give report to the shareholder on the financial statement audited? This one is just like a given scenario. In a embedded question, they have tried to like give you the scenario, what actually happened, and what they expected you to do. So it's not left to you to link your answer to that given scenario. So anything you are trying to say, no matter how you wanted to answer the question, you need to relate your answer to that X and Y Limited. So for example, when you want to start, you can give them the meaning of test of control. So you now say, however, the following are the responsibility of an auditor in order to ensure that the audit evidence or so as to ensure that audit evidence gathered. I don't know how you want to put this, but or you say the following are the ways or are the test of control that auditor can put in place in respect to X and Y Limited, so as to enable the auditor to give a proper opinion on the financial statements audited. From that preamble, you are able to link the importance of test of control or the responsibility of auditor on the aspect of test of control and in relation to X and Y Limited. Then you now say, however, the following are the responsibility of an auditor. You just list 5 or 6. You are good to go. You get your full mark there because you are able to give them the meaning of test of control, and you are with your preamble you are able to link the responsibility of an auditor, the importance of test of control, and to the given scenario, which is X and Y Limited. So if you are doing this on a continuous basis, you will now have broad knowledge on how to answer the question. And no matter how they want to choose the scenario, just read through the scenario, look at the requirement, then try and link your answer to the given scenario. So this is just what I want us to like imbibe in everything we are doing, coupled with the lectures that our guys giving us. So at the end of the day, we just come out in fly colors. So let us try and inculcate this, try and let us link our answer to the given scenario. So most of us fail because you know what they are talking about. What is test of control? You just give them the meaning of test of control and responsibility of an auditor, but you fail to link the responsibility of that auditor on the aspect of test of control to the given scenario, which is X and Y Limited. Or they might just choose the question no matter, or maybe it might not even be test of control, or maybe the audit evidence. Okay, how can an auditor substantiate? The aspect of this test of control might be through substantive testing, where you do your assertion on the aspect of the accuracy, the completeness of the transaction, the appropriateness, the existence, And those are the tests of control when you are doing substantive testing. So how can you relate all these tests of control in aspect of substantive testing to that given scenario? So it's very, very important. So if you are not doing that before, maybe you've taken this audit and assurance for like 2-3 times. So I want you to go back, challenge yourself this night. Have I been answering this question very well? Have I been relating my answer to the given scenario? So if you have not been doing that, I think that is where the problem comes from. Not even audit and assurance. Try and check. When you get to professional, most of us, okay, in tax now, maybe advanced tax. But when you get to professional, you can bear me witness. You can call me if I'm lying. My guy can testify to it. All the question from question 1 to 7 in audit, in tax, you have to write report, meaning that you are giving report on the work you did or what you carried out. So maybe they are not expecting you to just jump into answer like that. You must leave a space where to give report. Maybe at the end of the maybe internal report or external report. If it is internal report, that is you are going to title it as internal memo. External report, you give address of the distance. The following are the financial report of so from the requirement, maybe they ask you calculate adjusted profit. From that preamble, you now say number 1, after you've given the preamble, the adjusted profit for the year is so 50 million. See in appendix 1. So you are referring them to the notes, your workings you did in appendix 1. So these are the things that we don't normally do. That is why we keep failing that course often and often again. So let us challenge ourselves, think creatively how better you can answer your question so that you just pass the exam once and for all and move on to the next level. So thank you so much. Thank you. So this is what I just want to tell us. So maybe subsequently my organ might not be chanced, so I might still be the one to step in and probably assist him in the class, because me I also taking the professional students too. So the experience is a guide. That is why I'm just coming to just tell us these are the things that we used to focus, we used to see while we are writing exam. So if you have a question, please feel free, let me know before before we call it a day. So okay, Mr. Adegboyi, you can ask your question, sir. Hello, sir. Are you online? You raised up your hand. Hello, I can't hear you. I think you are talking. Okay, let's move on to another person. Mrs. Adebayo, you mute your mic. Do you have any question? Okay.
No, sir.
Okay. So, Mr. Ade, okay, Mrs. Olisa Emeka also. So, I'm sorry if I did not pronounce your name very well. Any question?
Yes, sir. Thank you so much for everything you said. So my question is, I want to ask that I think somebody was telling me that we need in audit you need to write word for word, like you need to write the way it is in the study pack, the exact thing. So I just want to clarify that do we actually need to cram it, the
No.
definitions or
It's that is in ICANN you don't read wide, you read wise. So this is it from experience. I don't know. Let me use my own as an example. I never failed any course when I was in skills. In professional, I wrote 5 once. I passed 4. I failed 1. So the one that I failed was audit, not audit, tax. So I failed tax. I passed 4 because I wrote 5 once. I wrote 5 in my skills. I passed everything once, and then I wrote the other 5 in the following diet. So I passed 4. I failed 1. So that will now extend me to another diet before I got qualified. So in a nutshell, what I'm saying is you don't need to read wide. You read wise in audit, in general distance. So because they are not actually looking for your final answer, they are actually looking for your professional judgment. They want to assume that this thing is happening to you in a real life. See me, see you question. How do you attend to it? it is how you can justify your answer. You might have different ways of attending to the question or different opinion, but how can you professionally attend to that attend to that question that is going to make sense for you and to the person reversing the work for another thing entirely. So you cannot cram the answer word to word, but think of in a creative way how to answer the question that is going to meet the requirement of that question. The way I just cited an example, it might be they might just ask you that, okay, for example, let me just make a scenario from this. Maybe they will just tell you X and Y Limited has been facing as many auditors over the year. So at annual general meeting, they appoint you, Mrs. I don't know your name. They appoint you as external auditor, but in there, your husband brother is working in that organization they just appointed you to, and this thing is going to hinder your professional independence on the opinion you are going to give. So according to IFAC, it states that an auditor must not take an engagement where he or she have a conflict of interest. So you are the auditor of that company. What are the justification or what are the things you need to put in place to safeguard your audit, your independence in giving opinion to the shareholder on the financial statement you want to audit? They are just trying to tell you generally that there will be a threat to your professional to your independence in your field, because there is already familiarity threat or any conflict of interest generally. So what are the things that you can do to safeguard your independence on that given scenario? So this question is of two ways. Now they are asking you that what are the threats you are going to face as an auditor while you are doing the job, and what are the safeguards that you need to put in place as an auditor so that your independence will not be compromised. So in this given scenario, when you want to answer, you always try and relate your answer to that given scenario. So first of all, you are going to list the threats that you are probably going to face in your engagement. We have familiarity threats, advocacy threats, self-interest threats, self-review threats, and which other one? I think there are 5. Familiarity, self-review, self-interest.
Intimidation threats.
So
Intimidation
those are the threats.
threats.
So those are the threats you are going to face. Then, what are the things you are going to do to safeguard your? So you are just going to give them list those 5 and give them small explanation to it. So the safeguard is one of this thing is that you must the safeguard to your professional independence according maybe through regulations and or maybe the profession as a whole, because we have 2 safeguards. That first of all, you must not take any you must not take any gift or this thing, yes, from the client, because that is where it starts from. And they must constantly rotate the audit team that will do the work. Familiarity trust might not even be maybe because you have someone, because your relation is working there. Maybe because you've been auditing the company over the years, so you tend to know 1 or 2 persons there. So the profession says that they must rotate that audit team, not the same face they will be seeing every time. Because by the time you are the one that audited them 2023 or 2022, 2023, 2024. So you might have known 1 or 2 persons there that maybe the directors that they can influence your decision. That one might be threat to your professional independence. So the say one of the safeguards says, according to profession, that there must be audit rotation, meaning that there should be another audit team that will audit that company, not you that are familiar to that company. So those are the one of the safeguards. So after everything, you should be able to wrap up all your answer to that scenario, sir. That in nutshell, by this, you are able to safeguard your professional independence, and you will be able to do your work excellently by following the safeguard according to the profession or according to regulations. So these are the typical way of answering question that you, by the time you read through everything, through your answer, you have that confidence in your mind that, oh, I think I've done justice to these questions. So these are the better way to answer question. There are two things, as I said. Try and understand that scenario very well and try and link your answer to that given scenario. But there will be a situation whereby you don't even understand the answer, but you understand the scenario perfectly. Any answer in ICANN are always relevant. So far you can prove your answer. How do I put it? So far you can prove your answer professionally. Like, if they are asking you what is A, and you don't know that A, but there is another illustration you can give to arrive at that A, that answer is also acceptable in ICANN. So you are not under any compulsion that you must know that A is A. So you can give better explanation that will make the examiner to understand that you're actually talking about A, but instead of you to pass straight, you now want to go and pass corner, you still arrive at that A. So far you can put your answer like that, yeah, you are correct. So these are the ways, not only in audit and assurance, in every courses we are doing, maybe our FR, our standards, understand the standard very well. And if you are still writing FR here, you know the ethical issues now that is going on in standard, which is IFRS 9 and IFRS 15. That is financial instruments and revenue from construction of contract. So those are the so try and familiarize yourself with relevant issues, contemporary issues that even it might even come in your audit and assurance. So just learn it generally. So it can come from anywhere. So far you are able to give you a reasonable and professional answer to that given scenario, you are good to go. So I hope I've answered your question, ma.
Yes. Thank you so much, sir. God bless you.
Amen. So Mr. Adebuyi, you still raise up your hand. Any question again? We've spent a lot of time here so that we can call it a day. I can't hear you, sir. Okay, if you have a question, I think your network is really bad. Okay, I can hear you now, sir.
Hello, sir.
I can hear you perfectly now, sir. Okay, so I think the network is really bad on his end. So thank you so much, everyone. My Oga, are you still there? Do you still have anything to tell our professional college student before we call it a day, sir? I don't know if my Oga is still online.
Okay, I think he's no longer here.
Okay, and he's online, but he's mute. So, do we still have any questions before we go?
I think somebody is saying, read my message.
Okay, can you send to this lecture course? I just come online due to network. Okay, yes, they will send you a link after the class so that you can follow the link. Then you get to see the videos online through YouTube so that you can listen to it and also have a visualized experience of the class. So in absence of that, I'm sure everybody we are cool, and please let us inculcate this thing in our exam, and I'm very, very sure the sky will be our beginning. So thank you everybody for listening. Thank you so much. So until next time, have a wonderful night rest. Good night, everybody. So my guys, over to you. I maybe you end the class or so. All right. Good night, everybody.